everyone. My name is Riyam.
I'm Emily Reinheimer, and we're going to be talking about token economies and behavior charts.
So first, this is our agenda. We're going to be talking about what is a token economy, the steps to implement a token economy, the do's and don'ts, some important considerations, and then some terms to define. So a token economy is basically a behavior change system made up of the following: a list of target behaviors, tokens or points that are earned for displaying target behavior, and then a menu of backup reinforcers such as treats or special items that the tokens can be exchanged for. This is an example of a token board. So you can see here on the left you have the target behavior. Those stars represent the tokens, and then on the bottom are the backup reinforcers that the child can exchange for the tokens. So basically, money is a token. While everyone loves money and uses it every day, it's not actual paper. The piece of paper that is valuable to us is the items bought through trade with money is what drives our desire. Same thing in the classroom. Teachers often use poker chips, fake money, or marbles as tokens, but a physical token is not always necessary. It can also be tallies, or the ticks may also be used in the same way. A backup reinforcer is basically an activity, item, or a privilege that the child enjoys. Examples of that could be toys, extra free time, outings. Success of a token economy depends on the appeal of the backup reinforcer, and the goal at the end is to basically phase out the tangible reinforcer and have the child just be motivated to do the desirable behavior. How is it used? They are basically used as a method to strengthen the behavior or to increase the frequency of that behavior, because the token is basically used as a way of paying the child for desirable behavior. It gives the child a clear understanding of where they stand and how much more work is needed to reach the goal.
And not just what's needed to reach the goal, but also if they aren't achieving their goal, they can look down and they can see that that is why they are being. So they're not frustrated, feeling like they're not getting rewarded like everyone else. They understand where they're at, and it gives them a clear path to achieve the goal. And so basically everything we've said, we've used a lot of terminology, so it's a little confusing. This is kind of a condensed version. So we start with the child has no tokens and no access to the desirable items, which is what we were referring to earlier as the backup reinforcers. The token is not, by itself desirable. And then the child engages in the desirable behaviors or the target behaviors, which we identify in the beginning, which you look for. And when they do engage in them, they get the token. Again, these aren't the reinforcers that they're looking for yet. So once they get a certain amount of reinforcers, they're able to trade it to get the desirable items. And so it gives you space between the engaging in the desirable behavior and then being reinforced with the tangible items with the backup reinforcers. And so the number one step in starting your token economy is identifying what behaviors you want to reinforce. So it's all based on reinforcing these desirable behaviors. They're predetermined, and often they're used to combat the current problem behaviors in the classroom. And I note here that a key factor for success is prioritizing behaviors which you want to change. There's going to be a lot of disruptive behaviors in the classroom, but you can't tackle them all at the same time. So you want to prioritize which are the most important to stop soonest. And it's necessary that the behaviors are eligible reinforcement are clearly set out, not only for you to keep track of what behaviors you should be reinforcing, but so the child knows what behaviors they should be doing. To go on with that, often we want to choose behavior that's incompatible with negative behavior. So like I was saying earlier, if we have a lot of classroom disruptions or outbursts, let's reinforce the child for raising their hand and waiting silently. Because it's incompatible, a student cannot disrupt the class while simultaneously engaging in this target behavior of sitting quietly, raising their hand. Another example, let's say you're at home. If the child often refuses to do their homework, a parent can reinforce each successful completion of a problem. Again, a child cannot avoid homework while simultaneously completing assignments. Next, we want to select the tokens. Again, this is not the desirable reinforcement, but just the leeway to it. It's the quick presentation, I guess. And the appeal is in the quick delivery, like I just said. A small item can be awarded to the student immediately following the desired behavior and later trade in for something more appealing. It's essential to pair these tokens with verbal praise. So each time that the child engages in the behavior and earns a token, the instructor follows with a positive feedback. I added an example down here. So you're in class and the child engages in the target behavior, so you want to let them know what behavior that they're engaging in. So you say, "Thank you, Billy, for doing a great job sharing your toys with your friends. You've earned yourself a star," and that's your token. And then here was just an example, so you can see what I'm working for. That's going to be your backup reinforcer. That's going to be maybe they want 5 extra minutes on the playground. So all of the tokens, they need to get, it looks like maybe 12 there, and then they can achieve what they're working for. So they see it, it's in front of them, it's clear, it's not confusing, and that they're able to achieve it. And then we move on to choosing the reinforcement. And just like when you're reinforcing a structure or like a wall, you're strengthening it. The same applies when in the context of behavior. Providing a reinforcement for a behavior, it strengthens the likelihood that that person will engage in that behavior again. But however, just because it's reinforcing for one person, it does not mean it will be reinforcing for everyone. Because of this issue, it's crucial that reinforcers are chosen with this in mind. When working in a classroom, a variety of reinforcers should be available for the students to exchange for their earned tokens. And I have provided some common classroom reinforcements, just little toys, stickers, games, free time, books. At home, maybe extend the bedtime. They get extra 5 minutes to play a game, watch TV, maybe a fun trip, little mommy-daughter time or parent-child time, but they're not always tangible. I think I said earlier, maybe take a break from class, get a break from a chore if you've been good and you've earned enough tokens. But then when do we reinforce? A reinforcement schedule is just a plan to decide when we should be giving this reinforcement. And it's either continuous or intermittent. And continuous is provided after every instance of the behavior. And a word we use is a contingency. So anytime that behavior happens, the child knows that they will be receiving the reinforcement. On the other side of that is intermittent. And it's reinforcement provided only after a set number of occurrences or a set amount of time. But I think the main word there is set. You decide this before. It's not just random. And we've got the different intermittent schedules there. Fixed ratio, variable ratio, fixed interval, and variable interval. We'll get into those a little bit more. But how do you know which one to choose? With continuous, it's a good schedule to use if you're teaching a new behavior because it's got constant reinforcement. The child is going to make that association faster. With intermittent reinforcement, that's if the behavior is already occurring and you just want to strengthen it. And I put down there a couple words that you could make an association with these terms since they're a little confusing. Fixed, it's constant. Variable, it's varying averages. Ratio is the frequency of behaviors, and then interval is time. So let's say we have a fixed ratio. The child needs to do 5 behaviors to get the reinforcement, and it's always 5 behaviors. Or variable interval. There's a varying time, averages, but they know that after this amount of time, as it varies, they will receive their reinforcement. And just kind of like a, I guess I'll go to the next part.
So you have to determine the amount of tokens needed to earn the backup reinforcers, and obviously more tokens would be required for a more desirable reinforcer. We put an example here, so while 10 tokens are required to earn a bouncy ball, 20 tokens are needed for extra time on the playground. So if the child is satisfied with their reinforcement, they basically lose motivation to work toward that goal. So the token itself does not satisfy the child, and therefore the value does not diminish. Here's an example of the point system that we just talked about. So they earn the 5 points, they get candy, but if they earn 10 points, they get computer time.
And if you were to instead give the child the candy every time they did the behavior, like we were just saying, satiation, we put next to it, think of hunger. Like with candy, they're going to get full, you're going to get satisfied, and you're not going to want any more candy. So what's going to make you want to keep doing the behavior? But when you get points for it, obviously you don't become satisfied with just points because it has nothing of value to you until you trade it in for something. And that also goes with planning. It helps children think for the future and decide what's important. Maybe they want to save the points and build them up so that they can get that 10 points on the computer. Or, if they want just quick reinforcement, they can just do 5 and get their candy right away.
So some do's and don'ts. Some do's, you do want to follow through with reinforcers, so you have to stick to it, establish an association between the behavior and the reinforcement. Keep it simple, it's easier for you and the child. So don't pick too many behaviors, and you won't remember them, neither will the child. Also make reinforcers adequately attainable. So start with a goal that's easy to achieve and then progressively increase to a more difficult objective. So don't be careful with food, and food items. Even though food isn't a reinforcer for most everyone, it should only be used in moderation or in special circumstances. If you are using food, make sure you're sticking to some healthy options. So now we're going to get into response costs. So response cost is a form of punishment involving the loss of a certain amount of reinforcement. The primary attention, obviously, for the parent or the teacher should always be focused on the positive behavior because that's what we're trying to reinforce. Response cost should also be the last resort and should be combined with other procedures to build adaptive behavior. It has 4 methods, so fines, bonus response costs, combining with positive reinforcement, and combining with group consequences, and we're going to get into that right now. Here's a chart of good behavior. So fines. So fines is basically when you remove a certain amount of reinforcement that typically would be available to the child. An example of that would just be taking away playtime when the child acts disruptively. Bonus response cost is offering more reinforcement than is typically offered, but can be also removed. So taking away something that the child could earn. It's the potential of earning that reinforcement. Also, combining with positive reinforcement is offering reinforcement of positive behaviors and removing them for undesirable behavior. Combining with group consequences, reinforcement is lost based on the behavior of a group. So if one child acts disruptively, so maybe then the whole class would lose some playtime that day. Ethical consideration for using response costs, so it may evoke aggressive behavior. The child could get frustrated and lash out for you taking away that reinforcement, so just be aware of that. Calling an attention to the punished behavior, so try to have a high ratio of the positive reinforcement to just balance that out. And the child could make a negative association to the person removing the enforcement. So if you take away that token on that reinforcement from them, they're gonna probably lash out on you a little bit. So I mean, don't take it personally. It's just you have to have the high ratio of the positive reinforcement. That way you can balance that out. And then final thing is basically the goal of token economy is to, at the end, just phase it out, and then you're going to have the child not depend on it so much.
Which is why the paired labeled praise is so important, because we want to phase out the token system. We want to gradually stop giving them tokens every single time that they're doing these awesome behaviors and just praise them, or so that they understand that they get a sort of like intrinsic motivation for doing these behaviors because you're giving them social positive reinforcement for doing it.
Here's the terms we talked about, and then we have a short video to show you.
Hi, this is Sasha from the autismhelper.com. Here's a quick tutorial on using the I Am Working For system and choice board. So here I have a few of the students' preferable items or common items preferred in our class. And when the student comes to the station, I keep actually one right at every station, and they can pick what they want to work for. So if he wants to work for Cheetos, he puts it here. And then it depends on the kid. Sometimes after a few responses we'll give a star, or after one task we'll give a star. The stars are kept on the back, which I think is so important, or else honestly you lose them. So once the child does something good or skip reasons for behavior, academics, give 1 star. And kind of continue on doing that until you get all the stars all up to the end, and once they get stars up to the end, they get the Cheetos. This is a nice visual way to break down the reinforcement the child's getting, and I think this really helps kids with autism understand more intermittent reinforcement. They don't get the Cheeto every time they do the response, but they know that it's coming. Thanks for watching, and for more tips, resources, and materials, come to theautismhelper.com.